Hi Chetty, how are you?
What's up यार मैं बढ़िया आप बताओ
Very बढ़िया. How is your coronavirus का period going?
क्या ही बताए almost 7 months now that I haven't seen my team in person so it's going okay I'd say but it's such a different space to be in I never thought कि मैं work from home कर पाऊंगा but चल रहा है
There's no other option. Okay, I'll just quickly introduce you to our audience and then we'll begin. Hi everyone, we are with Chetty Arun today. He is a biotechnology graduate of 2015, right? Yeah, okay, so I got that right. And he is the head of design at Razorpay. He was also he was one of the first designers, like he was the first designer Razorpay hired when they started way back in 2015. And he's one of the best known designers in the country. And Razorpay is one of the best known design teams in the country, which he himself built from the scratch. So, hi, welcome to the show again.
Thank you so much it kind of gives me chills when someone says that Razorpay is one of the best design teams in the country
Oh my God.
It's a very good thing to hear and the second time it's challenging as well you kind of have to keep that up now.
Yeah, that is true, but it is what it is.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we'll start at the very beginning. You were in college at a time when college did not really have a design scene. That was way back in 2011, 2012. And we were not, like today, Roorkee has a very strong product design community. We are like known outside. But back then, like my batch, we became designers getting inspired from you and your contemporaries. What inspired you to get into design and how did you get introduced to design?
So this was 2011, 2012 kind of scene, right? Like which time I wouldn't say that design was completely not there in the institute. It was there, but the concept of product design was not there. They were good enough artists inside the campus. By the way, there were people who were designing stuff for all of your college events and all that. वो तो था पहले भी. But it's just that I somehow think that the entire student groups like IMG and SGS labs, right? More or less, they've kind of introduced this concept of product design, and then that's how it kind of got famous also. Coming to the question as to मेरे लिए introduction कैसे था, so I'm a very typical South Indian family person, by the way. मतलब 10th करा life settle, 11th 12th करा life settle, engineering करा life settle. I come from that kind of a family, right? तो मेरे केस में extra curriculars are zero. मतलब मुझे कुछ नहीं आता, पढ़ाई के अलावा कुछ भी नहीं आता. I'm legit nothing. So my dad's a professional photographer. So I grew up looking at him tinkering with tools like Photoshop, After Effects and stuff like that, right? And I didn't know कि ये सब भी कोई करता है. Coming from a very orthodox kind of a family, मुझे नहीं पता था कि college scene में there is something other than studies also. Coming from a very naive approach over there, right? So the moment I entered college, I've seen a lot of magazines like Watch Out, Geek Gazette and all that, right? So this one day I was coming back from some classes and then there were a lot of people in the first year. Rajendra Bhavan में रहते थे हम लोग. So first year में there was a lot of commotion on the ground floor itself. इतना होता नहीं था कभी. Like अरे हो क्या रहा है यहाँ पे? Then somebody said अरे watch out करके there is this news magazine. You can join them. How do you join them and why do you join them? And like so there is this editorial thing. You can write some stuff or you can be in finance. You need to get some money. There's this design thing. If you know Photoshop, ये तो हमें आता है. चलो करके देखते हैं. So I directly went to this person called as Abhinandan Gopal. He's from architecture only, by the way. He was in his third year when I was in my first year, like super senior to you all. तो उसने बस एक क्वेश्चन पूछा, अच्छा फोटोशॉप आता है तेरे को? हाँ सर आता है. चलो ठीक है आ जा. So that's how it started. That's how some extra thing got added to my resume, saying that अच्छा पढ़ाई के अलावा ये भी आता है मुझे, right? हाँ. And then that kind of extended into in the second semester. So IMG was a known thing back then. In fact, SGS Labs was also there, but IMG was the known brand kind of a thing. Nobody knew SGS Labs because they were very nascent. They were very in the starting phases, right? So it was fairly simple. अच्छा ठीक है, ये सब आता है तो you should go to. And one of the major reasons back then to join most of these student groups is इस पे जाओ तो नौकरी लग जाएगी. You go there and then there are very great seniors out there who are now working at Google, Microsoft and whatnot. So you kind of draw the dots, right? कि अरे हाँ तो IMG गया तो Google में लग गया. So maybe something like that. And to add it up to that, मैं biotech से हूँ. So biotech का job scene is not that great. अभी का scene मुझे नहीं पता, but back then it was not, and we were ridiculed in the campus, by the way, borderline ridiculed. अरे biotech क्या है, तेरे को क्या ही job लगेगी and all that, right? So it was fairly easy for me to connect the dots, saying that अच्छा ठीक है, ये groups में join करो, ये seniors हैं उस group में, उनकी job लग गई already, तो मेरी भी लग जाएगी, right? So IMG was one of the things that I prepared for, like design के लिए. I got to know that अच्छा IMG also does some level of website designing and all that, right? Again, उस time पे product design काफी समझ में नहीं आता था. The word also I don't think I've heard back then. Even UX design for that matter, I don't think I've heard that word even in my first and second semester. मुझे बस ये पता था कि अच्छा ठीक है, I can handle a few artistic stuff here and there. I have some knowledge of all these tools, and then I can do some stuff here and there. Right? So IMG के लिए apply करा था, and then I got rejected. Then suddenly my roommate, who's a very good friend of mine, he was like, "अरे तू SJS में क्यों नहीं apply करता? It is far better." मुझे नहीं पता उसने क्या देख के ये बताया कि far better or what not. उसने बस बोला कि this is the application, go apply and then do whatever, right? Okay. I applied, and then when I entered, fortunately, into SJS Labs, it completely changed my mind. Because तब तक मेरे एरिया का बाहुबली मैं था. वहां जाके पता पड़ा कि यार और भी लोग हैं जो सबसे ज्यादा मचा हुआ है. मतलब there were people who are talking in, they were using these terms that I've never heard in my life. Right. मतलब I was looking at this web. This was second day of me joining SJS Labs, by the way. मैं कुछ ऐसा वेबसाइट से स्क्रॉल कर रहा था. Stumble upon was one of the huge things back then. You just press a button and then a random really nice website or a service kind of pops up. I don't think
no, I have heard of this. I have heard of this. I have seen this. It's very interesting.
तो मेरे लिए वो सब काफी अरे ये करते कैसे लोग, right? I had no clue. The second day, I guess I'm at the SJS Labs. I was at the lab. So lab previously was at the student, what do you call that?
Hobby center, hobbies club.
Hobbies club में था, correct, वहाँ पे था, right? Next to electronic sections and वो area वाला. So I opened up this random website and super beautiful, like कुछ भी मैं scroll कर रहा था तो चीजें उड़ रहे इधर उधर बढ़िया, पता नहीं क्या हो रहा है उसमें, right? So then some random person at SJS, हाँ ये तो Ajax से बन जाता है, JavaScript है. like, तुम बोल क्या रहा है, मेरे को समझ नहीं आ रहा जो भी बोल रहा है, but तू सही है जो भी बोल रहा है. So you get that intimidating feeling, right? So SJS Labs changed me a lot. I think most of the things that I know as of today, उसकी basics, उसके fundamentals were put into me in SJS Labs. So that changed me a lot. And then more or less your design scene started getting थोड़ा सा stronger in the campus. People started understanding that design is not just about building posters and all for your events. Design is also about building these websites, building these products and all. I used to suck at it, by the way. To be very honest with you, मुझे नहीं आता था ऐसा. I actually don't know why I was there. The imposter syndrome was super strong back then also, even now, to be very honest. But चल गया था. Somewhere in the fourth year type, again I was in my perennial dilemma कि यार biotech में जाना है या इसमें जाना है and all that, right? So I had a good enough, I wouldn't say good enough CGPA. I had a borderline good CGPA. My third year internship was not in design because back then also, right? Like अभी तो आप सबको पता है कि design करके एक designation होता है market में, and these guys get paid. मतलब there are jobs out there which are called as design. Back then we didn't know. Back then, to be very honest, I don't think I ever knew any companies who hired designers, to be very honest. मुझे बिल्कुल नहीं पता था. So somewhere in my fourth year, in my third year, I did my internship in biotech itself. In my second year also, I did my internship in biotech itself. Somewhere in my fourth year, a couple of juniors of mine, they were in their third and second years, right? They went out, and then उस time startup का scene थोड़ा फिर से चल रहा था. India में first wave of startups was your Flipkart, Snapdeal and all, right? The second wave is your housing, your Tiny Owl and all that. Tiny Owl shut down now. I don't know if you remember. So the second wave of startups was slowly starting, and these couple of folks went and did an internship over there. You will not believe me, my naive questions were this, by the way, when they came back from intern. अच्छा ये बता designers करके role होता भी है, मतलब people do hire them and they pay money for all of this shit. I'm like, हाँ यार they do. That's when I got to know that अच्छा ठीक है, there is a world outside called design. It's not just a hobby. You can actually be a designer professionally. You can make money out of it, and good money, by the way, really good money. उस time पे 12 lakhs per annum was a borderline great salary. आज के तारीख में तो you see all your 1 CR, 2 CR packages and all, but back then, if someone had a 12 lakh का package, it was huge. अरे congrats यार Chetty, 12 lakh मतलब बढ़िया चीज है. Housing used to pay 17 lakhs. I don't know if I'm allowed to share numbers on the call, but housing paid 17 lakhs per annum.
My God. Okay.
मतलब 17 का CTC है, it comes down to 12 itself. Bonus add करके 17 तक आता है.
That's
this
a
was
lot.
back in 2011.
Exactly.
That's a lot, right? उस time पे it was a lot. It was super. मतलब I had no clue, right? तो my naive questions was, अरे ये बता उसकी salary कितना होगा? मतलब how much do you guys get paid? So it was all surprising for me. अच्छा ये सब भी होता है, right? So and then Razorpay also was happening on the side. I was working for Razorpay right from the campus itself. Harshil and Shashank Kumar, both of them are they were the founders of SGS Labs also.
Right.
उस टाइम पे वो मेरे सीनियर से सर बोल के बुलाता था. अभी तो काफी अच्छे दोस्त लोग हैं. So उस टाइम पे it was so and some people from SGS also started working for Razorpay. Right. So connection वहाँ से start हुआ. Me and Razorpay. And I think there's no regret. To be very honest, I would have regretted if I had picked biotech and then went ahead. I had prepared for GRE. I got a borderline good enough score. I've applied to multiple universities, but got acceptance from one, Georgia Tech. I almost was ready to move. It took a couple of friends and a few sleepless nights to figure out, अच्छा ठीक है, biotech नहीं, मुझे design करना है. I'm thankful that it happened. I'm thankful to these folks who've helped me take that decision. Again, credit due, Shashank Mehta, who's currently the general manager for Razorpay X. He's one of my very best friends. I'd like to thank him कि उसने finally मेरा mind change कर दिया था कि चल Bangalore चल, कल तो मेरे साथ Bangalore चल रहा है.
Oh my
So
God.
May 11th or 12th of 2015 is when I left Roorkee. May 15th was when I landed in Bangalore, and there was no turning back. Must laga.
Why did you choose not to go for biotech, by the way? What was your reasoning for doing that?
So first was one more thing was I never sat for campus placements. मेरे को पता था कि biotech में you won't get core topic पे you won't get any.
Right.
You need to either be in consultancies or learn some level of IT, right? मुझे इतना interest नहीं था, to be very honest. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to go there. It's fine. I'll figure out because I was anyway applying to these colleges, right? So I somewhere had a hunch that कुछ ना कुछ तो I applied to 14 universities, by the way. If you were to ask me what is the worst financial decision that I've ever took my life, that was me applying to 14 universities. हर university का 10 से 15,000 तक का application fee है. मैंने 1,40,000 टाइप मैंने खर्च कर दिया उसमें. And 14 applications में से एक application मेरा सही निकला. So I don't know what I was thinking back then, but anyway. So I knew कि कुछ ना कुछ hit हो जाएगा इसमें. So I didn't sit for campus placements. And housing came to the campus, and I don't think I've applied. And somehow in that dilemma, this is January of 2015, by the way. This was all December खत्म हो गया. Campus placements were done, still going on. सब मेरे सारे बैच वाले लोग रुड़की में पढ़े थे ठंड में, प्रिपेयर कर रहे थे इंटरव्यूज के लिए. मैं मस्त हैदराबाद चला गया था घर, मैं चिल करूंगा. So I've come back to the last semester, Jan 2015. Right. Still in that super dilemma as to करना क्या है life में, right? So this is when all these discussions started happening in my friends group with me and them कि क्या करना and all that. And so Pranav Gupta, who was one of the lead front-end developers at SGS Labs, he was, if you remember the housing का lookup campaign, एक lookup rebranding हुआ था housing का. अच्छा. Lookup करके huge rebrand. One of the like in those days, if there was any startup which kind of got famous in design, that was housing.
That was housing.
And one of the reasons that was housing. One of the reasons why they got famous is because of the branding campaign. It went super huge, by the way. काफी सही था. Okay. So Pranav Gupta was one of the lead front-end folks who led that campaign. SGS Labs के थे. So I just messaged him saying, Pranav sir, can you hook me up with an interview at housing? मेरे universities का तो चल ही रहा है, जो भी चल रहा है. I'll also apply to these. Now that I know that ठीक है designers करके एक designation है and they get good money as well. So like, why not give it a try? So housing was going on. And for some reason, my online presence was not that much, but still some people knew me in the industry. I don't know how. So Grofers से मेरे को call आया था, Tiny Owl से मेरे को call आया था, right?
Okay.
So I had like a good enough 6 to 7 offers in hand in design itself. Housing was one of them, and I was almost going to housing also, by the way. So somewhere in that entire confusion is where some people like Shashank Mehta, Harshil and all, they're like, ये ले ticket और Bangalore जा. चलो आजा Bangalore, हम set up करें पूरा Razorpay. So that happened. But one of the things that kind of helped me in taking that decision was I basically imagined myself 5 years down the line, at a very shady biotech laboratory, fixing pipettes and tubes and all that. मुझे अच्छा नहीं लगा था, to be very honest. And on the other hand, the other parallel universe was me spending time with Harshil, Shashank Mehta, and all of these folks who I already worked with, right? वो मेरे को काफी अच्छा लगा वो scene imagine करके. So I don't know if it was the right method to take a decision, but I took it and it worked out.
What if it hadn't worked out? Like, what if Razorpay? I mean, there were fair chances, right?
I get nightmares even now if I think about it, and not just biotech versus Razorpay, by the way. Razorpay छोड़ के अगर कुछ भी होता, वो सब सोच के I still get night. I don't like to kind of go on. If you ask me that question, I'll cut the call right now. मेरे को नहीं जाना वहाँ पे. I don't want to think about all that.
मतलब it was a gamble. It was a gamble. मतलब काफी बड़ा gamble था वो.
I wouldn't say कि मैं gamble कर रहा था यार. मतलब see, you call it a gamble when there is super high level of uncertainty involved, right? Okay. I was naive back then. इतना knowledge भी नहीं था to judge a particular thing like Razorpay and then say that यार ये gamble है. I just trusted my friends कि ये बंदा अगर ये call लिया, ये मुझसे smart है, तो मैं इसको follow कर सकता हूँ. To be very honest, मैंने वही किया.
But now when you look back, it was.
It was a brilliant call, right? Like now when I look back, I don't think वो nightmare है मेरे लिए. If to even think about अच्छा ठीक है, what if something है, वो नहीं सोच पाऊंगा मैं.
Okay, all right. Okay, now that you are at Razorpay, you did not have any design internships during college.
Yeah.
You yourself have admitted that there wasn't much of a design scene in college back then. You did not have a degree, like a background academically in design. For say someone in architecture, they have a background in design somehow. You had none of that, and you built a team from the scratch, which is scaled to 30 plus today. You gave direction to the whole product that Razorpay had, one product and then multiple products as they came along. Now I have a series of questions here, right? Number one, this must have required you to like adapt and learn very quickly, and you must have made a lot of mistakes, right, along the way. That's inevitable as far as. So number one, how did you learn? How does anybody in that kind of a space, entrepreneurial space, learn so fast? How did you do it? And number two, how did you cope with any mistakes that you made? Yeah.
Again, over here, I'd like to give a lot of credit to the folks that I worked with, right? So this was the initial days. मैंने Razorpay join कर लिया था, May 2015, right? So the first 2 months, the only conversation that I had with Harshil Mathur, the co-founder of Razorpay, the CEO of Razorpay, by the way, मतलब, I don't think there's anyone who can beat Harshil Mathur at logic. वो इतना मतलब मचाऊ level इंसान है, right? So the first 2 months, the only conversation that I used to have with Harshil Mathur was, Harshil bro, सुन, मुझे कुछ नहीं आता. I don't know क्यों hire किया मुझे. तू एक काम कर, तू मुझे छोड़ 3 महीने के लिए. Just leave me for 3 months. I'll go to housing. I still had the offer from housing.
Right.
I'll go there. And housing had a good enough design team back then. Like even in 2015, I guess their design team was what, over 20-25 people.
It was a very good
all of them were
a
very good design team. A lot of good people were there, right? Like, so I gave an offer to Harshil Ulta saying that, "Acha, theek hai, son, I'll go to housing just for 3 months.
Right.
I'll learn whatever I have to learn because I've never designed anything. Like, to be very honest, SGS Labs I've did some work, but I don't think that kind of a work sets for a real product.
Exactly.
I don't think वो connect होता भी है because I don't think SGS Labs का work जो भी मैंने किया है वो इतना polished, इतना meaty work भी है. I did hobby type का था मेरे लिए, right? So I can't just say that वो अभी profession है मेरे लिए. So for the first 2 months, I pestered Harshil with just this. Harshil हमेशा used to turn me down. जो सीखेगा, job पे सीखेगा, अब जा. Right? And then that 3 months wala offer that I was giving to Harshal just started going down. अच्छा ठीक है हर्षल 2 महीने के लिए please. अच्छा ठीक है हर्षल just 1 महीने के लिए. 15 दिन यार तू बस मेरे को just let me go. I'll go learn and then come back. Because see, I want to succeed at this particular thing. And it was overwhelming for me, right? Like Harshal, usko, मतलब he's how to put it, like I don't think I've ever seen anyone. So we were about 8 to 9 people in the initial team, by the way. Almost everyone was from Roorkee. And everyone was super great at what they did. Right? So you had a Harshal Mathur who was super good at DevOps and networking, right? And then just sales and all, right? You had Shashank Kumar, who's the co-founder of Razorpay, the CTO. I don't think I've seen anyone who's a better developer than Shashank Kumar even today. He's not actively coding even now, by the way. CTO, he's super busy, right? But even now, I don't think there's anyone who can kind of go back and argue with him on tech logic, right? There was Shashank Mehta, who's, to be very honest, more or less a mentor in my life. वो मतलब जो भी आज मैं हूँ, 90% of the credit goes to him. There was Ayush Bansal, Sagar Saxena, a lot of people, right? Like they were Bahubali in their own verticals. So looking at all of them, I was like, इनके सामने मैं क्या हूँ? मेरे को क्यों hire किया? So my 3 months का offer just went down. एक महीना मेरे को छोड़, मेरे को 10 दिन के लिए छोड़ मैं जाके आऊँगा, right? So there's one day, Harshal was driving. We were going somewhere.
Right.
And then Harshal initiated a conversation saying, "तू हमेशा क्यों ऐसा करता रहता है? मतलब, why is there a confidence gap here? ऐसे क्यों कर रहा है?" Then I very innocently said, "Harshal, this is the first time that I'm doing all this. This is the first time that I'm actually working on a product. This is the first time I'm working where money is at stake. This is the first time, chances of me failing are high, and chances of me letting you all down is high. मैं पहली बार कर रहा हूँ ये सब. It was all happening in Hindi, by the way. मैं काफी candidly उसको पता यार मैं पहली बार कर रहा हूँ ये सब. तो Harshal in a very candid way said, हम भी startup पहली बार कर रहे हैं. I haven't asked a question उसके बाद. It hit me so hard कि यार these people are putting their lives and their entire, more or less, मतलब a startup failure hits you hard, right? मेरे लिए तो बस job failure है वो, अगर मैं fail होता, उनके लिए तो startup failure है, right? So that hit me so hard. Like then I kind of figured out कि यार ये me not knowing a lot of things, me going out of Razorpay, learning and then coming back is nothing. वो सब नहीं करना चाहिए मुझे. Whatever I have to learn, there are enough people here that can teach me. Even though chances of failure are high, every failure is going to teach me something, right? Okay. So I basically buckled up back then and then just went ahead. वो मेरे को dialogue अभी भी याद है. I can picture that scene even now. कि हम startup पहली बार, हम भी startup पहली बार कर रहे हैं. It hits you so hard when the CEO tells you that whatever that you're facing, I am also facing it, but 1000x or 10,000x.
Right.
तो ये जो complaints दे रहे हैं, I understand them, I relate to them, but we are all in this together, right? That's a different meaning. That sets you different. It hits you very differently. So it was kind of difficult, to be very honest. But yeah, I had all of these people to learn from, right? Like I've learned marketing from these people. I've learned product from these people. I've learned some level of tech understanding from these people. I've learned some level of business from these people. And all of these combined, design तो खुद से ही चल रहा था, जो भी चल रहा था. And some people in the first initial team had a very good eye for design. Shashank Mehta, to be very honest, he's still one of those persons who I'd want feedback from, because he has a really good eye for design. In fact, most of the products that you see at Razorpay, he had a good influence on them from a design perspective. Okay. So I had pseudo mentors of sorts in all of these people, and that worked out great.
So that was the only thing.
Had there been a proper designer who worked at a different company for at least 2 to 3 years, scene maybe अलग होता, मेरे लिए maybe थोड़ा faster होता. But I think ये अच्छा था यार. मतलब learning all on it on your own, setting up everything on your own, failing at things. Absolutely. It's a very good experience.
So how, like, so the question remains, right? How did you learn more about design? Did you go to like conferences? What did you do? Like, how did you cope with that? Once you buckled up in your own words, how did you go ahead then?
So I started, again, there's no textbook answer as to what I did. To be very honest, I haven't attended any conferences or read any books of sorts. मैं जो करना था वो कर रहा था मैं. For example, one of the things that I firstly took up at Razorpay was redesigning the entire checkout form, how people pay online, the entire interface for paying online, right?
Right.
So how I designed it, is it according to the proper design processes? No, it was not. Definitely not. There was no user flows, there was no research, there was nothing at all. जो मुझे अच्छा लग रहा था मैं करे जा रहा था.
Okay.
And I had these people all the while. मतलब they put me in situations where I had to answer them for all of their tricky questions, and that was enough for me as a learning. Whenever someone used to ask me something, यार ये होगा कैसे बता, I had no answer, and then it hit me hard. अच्छा ठीक है, ये भी सोचना पड़ेगा, right? And then from the next time onwards, I just didn't do those mistakes. I just covered all my tracks enough so that ये आगे जाके I've learned. And over time, I added more designers to the team, and I've learned more from them also. Like almost every designer that I've hired was super better than me at every single component that you can fit. Right? So like there are good like one of the few folks that I've hired in the very starting, उनसे मैंने UX सीखा है. A couple of folks I then hired was super good at UI. मैंने उनसे UI सीखा है. A couple of folks I hired उनसे motion सीखा है. So something or the other I've heard. मतलब my team started teaching me itself without them knowing. Unknowingly, वो सब मैं बस I was just learning from everywhere. And I still had a major support from these initial folks, right? That is still there. I don't think there was any time where that support was not there, and that helped a lot.
That's nice. So, but then any mistakes that you made उस समय जो कि मतलब like how did you cope with that? Sometimes like for fintech at least, fintech is a very critical space. Like it's not hunky dory. You're not doing something which is not regulated, right? So वहाँ पे mistakes can be life threatening at times. Any mistake that doesn't work out for the product at least. So how did you cope with that?
Product में, to be very honest, यार, I don't think I remember any heavy mistakes of sorts that we did. But personally, there were some, I wouldn't say mistakes, but if something else would have happened, it would have put me in a better situation today. Maybe stakeholder management and kind of managing the team, managing people. अगर ये मैं थोड़ा पहले start कर देता, so I started managing people 2.5 years ago. So it's been a while that I actually touched hands-on design. Like for the last 2.5, 3 years, I've been managing people. I think ये थोड़ा पहले हो सकता था. अगर होता तो maybe I would have been a bit more mature today in handling people and handling stakeholders, etc. Not that it is bad today, it's just that it would have been even better if I had took that opportunity a bit before than what it had happened. Product mistakes, to be very honest, I don't remember any that drastically changed anything. Because again, I'm not saying that we haven't done any mistakes. We have, we definitely have.
Right.
But the industry, as you've rightly put, right, like finance is a very sensitive area, sure. But finance was also that area which gave you a lot of opportunities. It was not like e-commerce and logistics, which was saturated. Back then, even now, like if you consider e-commerce and all, more or less, again, I'm not sure if I can say it out, but I somewhere feel that it's a personal feeling. My opinion is thoda saturated hai. Right? The problems and all are kind of saturated. Right?
By saturated, you mean they have been solved for already?
I'm not saying they've been solved for. I'm saying that these are not scratch se kuch put karne ka koi zaruri nahi hai. Someone somewhere in the world have done it.
It's not a 0 to 1 thing.
It's, I wouldn't say 0 to 1 thing, but these problems are not something that you put on the table for a very long time, ponder upon them, brainstorm a lot, and then put up.
Right.
You get it, right? Finance was new, everything was new, internet penetration was going super strong, especially in Indian markets, right? People who are not online paying yesterday were coming online today for paying bills. Paytm was there, promoting their phone recharge karo, aap online bills pay karo and all that, right? Then UPI came into the picture, demonetization happened. So finance was happening, kuch na kuch ho hi raha tha. Something new was all happening, right? So the opportunity was so huge कि हम कुछ ना कुछ नया कर ही रहे थे. And when you do something new, there are failures here and there, but I don't remember any huge thing that kind of put us back. I don't think any such thing happened either, to be very honest. It's just that personal front mein, if I had started all of these stakeholder management etc. thoda earlier, it would have been a bit better for me.
Okay. By the way, talking about demonetization, did demonetization like actually hit your company? How did it affect your company? Not hit. How did it affect your company? The business must have increased a lot.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely, right? Like because demonetization happened, and for that initial years, your entire cash handling was kind of set back. The people who are not online accepting payments were looking for accepting payments online. Even traditional businesses who are heavily running on cash. Cash to chalega, क्यों ही online चाहिए मेरे को payment gateway चाहिए नहीं. Why are you even bothering me, right?
Right.
even those people, the more or less the situation didn't leave them any chance कि यार अच्छा ठीक है अभी भी cash चलाएंगे में. Their business was going down, and one of the only ways they could kind of put up with the competition, etc., was to start accepting payments online. So it was a very good space for all of our fintech players to kind of go and capture the market. So it hit us in a very right way. And in fact, when it happened in like almost 3 to 4 nights, we've released a different application for cash on delivery, counterpart, where the delivery person obviously has a smartphone more or less, and your users also have a smartphone. So why can't just an online transaction happen then and there? So more or less cash on delivery type ka hi scene hai. One of the reasons why cash on delivery is opted for is because I want to experience the product and then give you money. I don't want to give you money pehle and then wait for that feeling is still there. The trust issue is still there in India, right? इसलिए cash चलता है. So instead of completely making it online payment, a prepay kind of a thing, we figured out why can't the delivery person accept payments online only when the delivery was happening.
And you delivered this in 3 to 4
more
days.
or less 3 to 4 nights में हमने 3 to 4 days में हमने वो deliver कर दिया था. So these kind of incidents like demonetization, UPI, even the Yes Bank moratorium that happened very recently in March, right? So these kind of helped us in putting up something new, doing something extra, capturing that extra market, etc.
Even the pandemic, for that matter, to an extent, because people are paying a lot online due to
exactly. Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's amazing. All right. So now I'll just move on to the next part of the conversation. You also head the cultural committee at Razorpay.
Yeah.
Right. So I have personally always been interested in the culture of a company. I have never understood how, so many people together believe in the same thing, and how a culture is first decided in a company, B built, and then C maintained or sustained. So can you shed some light on that? How Razorpay does it, and how do companies in general do it?
Sure. So see, culture can make or break a company, as simple as that. Like you can have world-class product managers, designers, developers, sales folks, etc. But अगर right culture नहीं है, तो to be very honest, there are chances of you failing a lot.
Exactly. What do you exactly mean by
it affects you a lot.
For people who don't
I'll
know,
give you an example.
Right. Okay.
Fair. I'll give you an example. Right? One of the cultural values at Razorpay is to be autonomous, is to take that level of ownership, is to not expect micromanagement, is to not even micromanage further also, right? So one of our very fair examples for this is, if you see something that is going wrong, doesn't matter if it is a process or a product or a decision or anything for that matter, even if it is not under your control, even if it is something in a different vertical, or मैं design का हूँ, if I see something going wrong in, let's say, finance or sales, I don't know jack shit about finance and sales, to be very honest, right? But I can at least point out and then understand what's going on, and then maybe in my understanding I can put some solution to it. Nothing is someone else's problem at Razorpay.
Right.
If you see something that is going wrong, you are encouraged and empowered to go fix it. You find your team who can fix it, you work with them, you fix it off, right? And this level of ownership, by the way, is uncomfortable, is super heavy on your shoulders, but it gives you a kick. One more example I'll give you, right? Like, the founders will never come and tell you, Komal, I want you to build this. They'll never say that. They'll only come and say that, Komal, we want to expand into this particular category. How do we do it? It is up to Komal and her team as to figure out. See, again, for reaching a target, there are millions ways of, how can you reach that target?
Right.
You can put up a product, you can put up a process, you can put multiple products, you can go into new vertical, you can build a new sales team, multiple things, right? कुछ भी कर सकते हो. I'll give a very precise example, right? How can you increase the number of users on the platform from, let's say, X to Y? Let's say, आज के तारीख में 1 million है, how do you move it to 10 million, right? There are multiple ways to do it, to be very honest, right? Free में आपका product बांट दो. You give your services for free, you'll by default get 10 million, but that's not the correct way to do it, right? So your founders or even the leadership won't come and tell you कि I want you to do this. For us to meet this 1 million to 10 million ka growth, I want Komal, Chetty, and all of these people to do this. They won't tell you that. They just tell you, this is a target that we think we should achieve. It's a very ambitious target by the next year. You come up with a plan as to how to do it. You figure it out, right? That level of ownership is super uncomfortable, right? You, with your understanding of business, of product, of design, of sales, or whatever, you're coming back and then saying that the the goal is super strong, 1 million to 10 million. ये मैं ऐसे ऐसे hit करूँगी. I'll take up these products. I'll sell in these areas. I'll collaborate with sales team. I'll collaborate with the marketing team. I'll push these campaigns, etc. Right? So this kind of an ownership is everywhere. It's not just at the leadership level. It's everywhere. For example, even for my team, I rarely go back and tell them that मुझे ये चाहिए. I'll just tell them that users are facing this. We have to solve it. How do you solve it? When do you solve it? In what chunks do you solve it? Do you put up a design for it? Do you change your tech? I don't care. आप मेरे को इसका solution दे दो. That's what. It's up to you as a designer to how to solve it, how to take up that level of ownership, right? So this is culture for me. Every little thing that you do is mapped something, like, and every decision that you take in the organization has some level of framework. Whether ये decision क्यों लिया था? Because our cultural value is this. For example, one of the cultural values at Razorpay is be customer first always. You're not Razorpay first. You're not business first. You're not employee first. You're customer first. Customer always comes first, right? Agar if your users are again, now how does this customer first translate into designers? As you be user first. Users are your customers. And how does it translate to, let's say, the HR team? HR ke liye customers are all your employees and potential employees. So they have to be customer first, right? So this is how cultural values affect your day-to-day lives. This is how I'd like to give an example. Coming back to your initial question as to why is culture important, right? Like culture can make or break your organizations. Like how can you take a decision? How can you, as a part of an organization, can take a decision, right? There has to be some agreed level of values. कि अच्छा ठीक है, हम सब, if given a decision, this is how we take it. The decision could be small, big, could be on product, could be on processes, could be anything. If you all were put in a spot, then how will you take that decision? You have to have some agreed set of values. That is defined as culture.
Okay. How does a company decide its culture? Like how do you square in key, this is our culture?
See, it's always evolving for the first. This is something that I want everyone to just write upon. Right? Like, an organization's culture is always evolving because organization's culture is nothing but organization's people and the processes that the people use, right? And the people are always changing. For example, let's say as of today, I'm a part of Razorpay. I carry more or less all the cultural values of Razorpay. If I join a different company today, I'll carry forward my set of principles along with me. So there's some level of exchange over there. Like let's consider if I join Google tomorrow, right? Google has a different set of cultural values. So some processes and some values and some principles that I have, I impart to Google, and whatever Google has, I kind of take them up on my own. It becomes a mixed kind of a thing, right? So over time, your culture always has to evolve, for sure. Now, how do you set it up for an organization is all about how do you want to set up your team. Obviously, it kind of starts from the founding team itself. What kind of a team do you want when you are, let's say, 1,000 people? We are 1,000 people as of today, by the way. And back in 2015 and 2014 itself, we knew what kind of a company we wanted to set up, what these values are, etc. For example, one of the very, it kind of sounds trivial, but very important, right? One of the things that we decided was we will be transparent in every little thing unless it has to be confidential in everything, right? Now I'll tell you how it translates, and this is something that we decided, by the way, in the initial times only. Harshal, Shashank, and all of us, we decided that, you know what, we as a startup, if we want us to be a great company going forward, we want this particular value to be there, and one of the values is transparency, right? So I'll tell you how it kind of comes into play. There are no cabins and all of these, this kind of a culture at Razorpay. Every meeting room has a transparent, view. Every meeting room is glass walled. You can just enter any room unless you're told not to. There have been times where मेरे design presentations चल रहे थे. The HR walked in, gave me some feedback, and then went back. There were times when I attended random sales meetings. मुझे बुलाया भी नहीं था, by the way. There was 4 people in a meeting room. They were just talking about something. I'm like, अच्छा ठीक है, चलो मैं भी चले जाता हूँ. And it's still there. Okay. If the office was open, one of the activities that I generally, do, and if the office was open, I would do even today, is to randomly walk into meeting rooms, even though I don't know these people. I'll just sit there, I'll observe what's happening. If I have anything, I'll just say it out. Every message that you send out, every communication that happens between employees is on public channels on Slack. people don't directly message people on Slack or WhatsApp unless it is absolutely necessary. Every conversation happens on public channels. Every conversation on email happens on a group. There are email groups also, right? Like for example, let's say if you are a designer in my team and if I have to tell you something, right? I'll put you in the two email address. I'll also put designers at Razorpay in the email address so that whatever that we are speaking, unless it is confidential, I want the rest of the team to know also this is what conversation that happened between you and me. This is the decision that we've took between you and me, and the rest of the team should know. So you see how transparency is now kind of trickle down into these practices at office, these practices in communication on Google, on Slack, etc. Right? So how it starts is you as a founding team, as a leadership, you need to decide as to what kind of culture do you want to set up at your team, uh, and then over time you need to make sure that it is evolving in the right way, and the processes are also kind of evolving in the right way. If I just say that I'm transparent here, but if I'm not doing anything which shows that I'm transparent, doesn't make sense. Your culture values just become a piece of paper, right? Doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
It will just become कि अच्छा ठीक है मैं कोई talk में जा रहा हूँ मैं बस बोल रहा हूँ कि Razorpay का काफी बढ़िया culture है, we are transparent, we are customer first, we have doesn't make sense, right? Like we have to also show it in our practices, we have to show it in the processes that we do. So it is super important for founders and the leadership team to figure out what are these values, what these principles are, and how do you going to make sure that they. So two things, right? One is awareness about these values, especially when you're a big organization, like 1,000 people. How can I expect someone who joined Razorpay yesterday to know all of these values?
Exactly.
Right? So there is awareness, and the second thing is practice. So I need to kind of onboard them as to, acha, theek hai, Komal, you've just joined. This is how we work at Razorpay.
Right.
And whenever I give you feedback, right, I point it to a cultural value. I see that, Komal, you know what? In that last project, I don't think you've talked to any users. And if you remember, we are customer first. Whatever that you're building it for the customers, and whatever decisions that you take on the product, they're for the customers. So for you to being customer first, I want you to do that extra level of research. I want you to analyze all of these insights and then take decisions. So awareness is one thing, and the second thing is putting it into practice, right? I am giving you feedback on your growth based on cultural values. So that's how you kind of make sure that right from the starting and at every single step, you have all of these principles redefined every single time. And it is always evolving also. For example, whatever that we used to do, being super transparent back when we were 14 people, I can't expect it to scale it up to 1,000 people. But we still have that ethos of being transparent still there. Some things which were super transparent back then, maybe they're not as of today because 1,000 people it doesn't make sense when you scale up a company.
Exactly.
Kuch company decisions and all, उस time पे it was free for us to kind of communicate huge level decisions. अभी के case में they will be transparent, but धीरे-धीरे से they'll be communicated to the rest of the organization. Whether the documentation etc will be available for sure. But उस time पे जैसे था maybe आज उतना नहीं है. Because वो possible भी नहीं है scale करना at 1,000 people organization.
Chaos हो जाएगा वरना
but
not
the ethos
everybody
is
can
still
talk
there.
together. Right.
No, that is still there. Everyone can and should talk to each other in a very open public forum. Like nothing that can't be shared outside should be shared outside. As simple as that.
Okay. All right.
If it is confidential, do not share it. But if it is not confidential, it should be on a public channel.
It should be there for
people should know. It should be there. For example, information should be available. It shouldn't. But you should not face an issue saying that, "Arey, yaar, ye information to available hi nahi hai. How can I take a decision?" It should be there by default for you.
That is very.
For example, it's interesting, and a lot of people face issues also. A lot of people who are coming from different companies, उनके लिए थोड़ा uncomfortable है. So being a part of a cultural committee, it is more or less our responsibility to make sure कि यार you imbibe these values. It is okay for you to see these things in public. It is okay for you to share all of these things. For example, if you join tomorrow, if you design something, and if you're not sharing with the rest of the team, the 1,000 folks, right? Your understanding is, yaar, my manager is Chetty, मैं उसको तो share कर ही रहा हूँ, and I'm getting that feedback, I'm done, right? Sharing it with the rest of the folks, you somewhere have that hesitation कि यार मैं इतने लोगों को share क्यों कर रहा हूँ?
And also a fear of judgment, right? Like exactly, yeah.
So that is our responsibility to make sure that you cross that restriction. Our responsibility to make sure कि वो hesitation जो आपके दिमाग में ना हो.
How do you do that? Like how do you do that?
You encourage people to share in public. You kind of make sure that conversations are happening in public and all that. There's no set definition as to this is how you do it.
Okay.
But it's a very good problem to have. These are good problems to have, right? Making sure that, again, take it with a pinch of salt. What I'm saying, someone who's just joined, who's a leader in the organization, someone whose experience is at least 20 years more than me. He or she's achieved everything in life that I can imagine, right? Kind of going back to them and then telling them, you know what, this is how we follow things. Right? It's tricky. But people embrace these values. Every person who joins Razorpay, every leader who joined Razorpay that I've had a word with, they absolutely love all of these practices that we have. They are uncomfortable in the starting, but they love it. I mean, it gives you such freedom to do things. The ownership value that I talked about, right? Like,
Right.
I'm not going to tell you what to do. You figure out what you have to do. I'm going to tell you, I want to reach from point A to point B. You take me there. How do you want to take me there is up to you. It's such a great freedom to have. Itna ownership, I don't think anyone gives you.
There's also accountability that comes with it.
Obviously.
Absolutely.
Accountability is another, again, cultural value along with. Again, all of these cultural values are interlinked, by the way.
Right.
For you to take that ownership, the only way you can take up that ownership and do stuff is when you have information available. And when will you have information available? When it is freely available. For that, you need to be transparent. All of these are interconnected.
Exactly. I get your point, right?
Yeah.
That was very interesting. Okay. So now let's move to the next part, right? What are your what are there any what are your wackiest memories while working at Razorpay? Like any experiences, I don't know. Like when I spoke to Sambhav, who's currently building Family, he told me that एक बार ऐसा हुआ था कि they had to stay up for 48 hours because there were a lot of fraudulent practices and there were people trying to hack into their system, something of the sort, and they stayed up for 48 hours and it was like a war. They were doing something, they were filling up a hole, and that actually made their product very robust. Was there something of the sort, not just fraudulent practices or anything at all?
There are many such good memories associated with Razorpay. It's been over 6 years now that I've been associated, and काफी stories hai. I'll tell you a recent one, right? So Yes Bank went down in March.
Right.
And one of the very wrong days for a bank to go down is Friday. तो Friday हुआ. Sorry, Thursday को हुआ. Thursday को या Friday को हुआ. Friday को हुआ शायद. मुझे इतना याद नहीं है.
Okay.
So we were all, so it was some 9 p.m. evening. Everyone left the office. लोग party कर रहे हैं, कुछ pubs में जाके. Suddenly I see a lot of conversation happening. One of the very creepy things that I do is I always have Slack open. Slack is an internal communication tool that we use at Razorpay.
Yeah.
I keep reading messages every once in a while. So चलो ठीक है, sales में क्या चल रहा है? I join the sales channel. I see what's happening. I see Razorpay में क्या हो रहा है? Join that channel. And then suddenly I see a lot of people typing these messages. अच्छा ठीक है, I'm coming back to the office in 10 minutes. I just left my space. मैं आ रहा हूँ अभी office. Just get me on a call if there's something. मैं आराम से अपने घर पे बैठा था. It was 9 p.m. 10 p.m. somewhere. ये लोग office क्यों जा रहे हैं suddenly? Then I checked the news and see that Yes Bank was on. Oh shit! I immediately got ready, took the car while driving. So it takes me 20 minutes to reach the office from where I stay. In that 20 minutes, the only thing that was there in my mind was Yes Bank se related kitne services hai Razorpay mein jo fate hue hai and kitne users are getting impacted and kahan pe. I was just making a mental list of all of these things.
Whatever. I didn't get you.
अच्छा ठीक है. So Yes Bank, the RBI put Yes Bank on a moratorium. Basically, in a very simple words, Yes Bank almost band ho gaya tha. So all of their services were also down.
Right.
Do you use Phone Pay?
Google Pay, yes.
ठीक है. Phone Pay का entire UPI is based on Yes Bank services, and Phone Pay was down. Similarly, some of Razorpay services are served by Yes Bank APIs. All of them were down.
Oh my God.
Okay. I'll give you another example, right? Let's consider you have a Yes Bank credit card, right?
Okay.
So this is how your EMI payments happen, by the way. If you pay some 10,000 today on an EMI basis, we have to send a file to Yes Bank saying that these are the people who opted for EMI today. Please process them. Yes Bank in response tells कि अच्छा ठीक है, these are all processed. Give an intimation to the customer कि EMI process हो गया. अब से हर महीना 3,000 कुछ कटेंगे. Right? Yes Bank is down. There's nobody to look at that file. Now the EMI, just a tiny example by the way, all of the EMI payments that happened on that day via Yes Bank methods might not get processed. So you need to figure out a way for these customers to get that experience
and get their money back
yes.
in case it doesn't. Oh
Get their
my.
money. Why would you want money back? आपने कुछ service के लिए pay किया था. You most of the cases you want that service. You
If Yes
figure out
Bank
what
doesn't
happens so
accept the
that
money, then you will have to return the money back, right?
basically something has to be figured out. And this is one tiny example, by the way. So while driving to the office, I mentally made a list of all of such things which might require some attention from our end. So that happened on a Thursday, it happened on a Thursday, I remember now. Entire Friday, nothing happened by the way. जो मेरा काम था सब hold पे कि I don't give a shit, I want to solve this now, right? And then one more thing is, especially at Razorpay with such a huge organization with so many customers, end customers and businesses alike, right? You need to make sure that they are not panicking. You need to tell them that hum handle kar rahe, we're there for you, right? We will handle everything that is stuck because of all of these issues, right?
Right.
So communicating that one message is important because there are so many. It's not like 14-member team back then कि अच्छा ठीक है Chetty ये communicate करना चलिए figure out कर ले. It's now multiple people in touch with all of these merchants. There are multiple touch points, and you need to make sure that the word from Razorpay is kind of going out in a proper sense, proper branding, the tone of voice, etc., etc. The message should not be panicky; it should be correct.
Yes, absolutely.
Similarly, there are a lot of services which got hit, and you need to overnight kind of sit and then kind of fix them all, right? So it was such a. It was not just for us, by the way. We have our competition. We have our own brothers in the brothers and sisters in the fintech society who are more or less doing the same thing. Like एक side पे Twitter पे phone पे के updates आ रहे थे. We are fixing things. ये हो रहा है, वो हो रहा है. Phone पे के साथ हम all मतलब the friends that I had at phone पे they were calling मुझसे अरे यार क्या फटी पड़ी है, क्या कर रहे हो तुम लोग, क्या fix कर रहे हो. Right. So more or less the entire fintech community kind of got together and then fixed all of these things in like 2 nights. Right. And Razorpay was not just one service back then. This is March में बात कर रहा हूँ मैं. We had a ton of products on almost some of them had Yes Bank services. You need to figure out all these experiences. कैसे होना है, क्या होना है and all that. So one experience that I'd say is, and at a time to be very honest, अच्छा लगता है कि यार you get that adrenaline rush कि यार कुछ तो हो रहा है, चलो कुछ करते हैं यार कुछ that initial startup days of staying up overnight doing stuff kind of comes back again, so you feel good.
I can completely understand. So what if your if you were to sum it up, what if your major learnings 4 or 5 been from your whole journey at Razorpay, with building a team, making things from scratch, all of those things?
It's very hard to answer. मतलब point blank पे question कभी answer मैंने सोचा नहीं था इसका कि what are the 5 things that you would say.
Top of your mind.
अच्छा ठीक है, मैं कुछ चीजें बताता हूँ. कैंपस में काफी टाइम होता है लोगों के पास, बट मेरे पास काफी टाइम था, मैंने अच्छे से यूटिलाइज नहीं करा. आई थिंक it would have been good if I had learned a few skills here and there. Maybe read a bit more. For example, let's say how design का ही मतलब till the end I was not clear कि UX design करके कोई designation है. मतलब maybe you can read about stuff, talk to a lot of people and all that. तो campus में काफी time रहता है. And once you kind of go into that industry, chances of you learning a new skill kind of goes down. I'm not saying that it is zero. There are people out there who are still learning a lot of new things in design every once in a while. And to be very honest, I feel envy when I see them. अच्छा ये लोग ये तो कर पा रहे, काफी सही चीज है. To be if I were to pick a new skill as of today, I think I'll have to let go of a lot of things at work and then take it up.
Right.
So campus में वो restriction नहीं है. Like there's enough information available for you to learn. There's enough mentorship available for you. There's enough time also. Like all the ingredients for you to learn a new skill are right there. So वो जो मैंने, I don't think I've utilized it in the right way. So one suggestion is to figure out, experiment a lot. Like see what skills can you kind of bag in. There are enough people to talk to. Whatever skill that you want. Guitar सीख लो यार campus में. मतलब कुछ भी करो, कुछ तो नया सीखो, कुछ तो करो, right? One thing is that. Second thing is for people, especially who want to get into design, I'd say don't just stick to design. Also figure out how to manage products, how to strategize products. If you've already done internships, great. If you haven't, figure out where do you want to intern and what role, because design is not a standardized designation wala vertical. a UX designer, interaction designer, UI designer, product, say हजारों roles है, right? And more often than not, I get this question from a lot of juniors is, मैं करूँ क्या? मतलब UX design करूँ, ये करूँ. You figure out what you want to do, learn, go deeper to all of these verticals. But don't just go deeper into that one thing. Also kind of touch upon all of these peripherals like product management, marketing, etc., etc. Right? So ये सब करो. All of those, get rich quick kind of a weird thing. The t-shirts बेचते हैं campus में. Right? Like, do it if you have that level of business inclination. But to be very honest, I don't think there's anything that you can learn heavy out of it. I'd rather suggest, take up a real problem in the campus and solve for it. Right?
Right.
T-shirts in the campus is not a problem worth solving. I somewhere feel. So figure out some problems in the campus that you can solve. Especially in these times, how are your professors kind of talking to you, right? Like, can you solve that? That's a good problem to solve. So उस पे थोड़ा focus करो. Be updated with what's happening in the ecosystem, whatever ecosystem you're in. Let's say if you're in the field of, let's say, civil engineering, read a lot on current events in civil engineering, what's happening. Talk to your seniors as to what's happening. How are civil engineers actually working out there? If you're designers, talk to designers out there. A lot of people I know have their calendars open. My calendar is personally open. Check out my Twitter. Talk to people in the industry who are already doing the ideal job that you want to do. जो भी dream है आपका कि मुझे ये करना है, वो already है existing कहीं ना कहीं. Whatever that role that you want, talk to them. Right. Talk to more people is one other thing that I'd say. That's for it. Campus में तो ये चीजें मैंने नहीं करी थी. अगर ये करता तो थोड़ा better होता आज. I'd say these things.
Okay, I think we can wrap this up now.
Sure.
Thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing. Thank you for your time and take care.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this series is really nice. Now that I know that there've been some already 10 to 11 people that we talked to, I think I'll go back and check them out.
Sure. Let me know how. Let us know how. We are people of 10 now. I started this in July and then we expanded, and it's become official. It was called the Board Arlander initially. Because I was bored and I was an Arlander. So yeah, and eventually.
Yeah, it's a good initiative, right? It's a very good initiative because there are a lot of people like me in the campus who are super hesitant to talk to people. So for them, they don't have to talk to people; they just have to listen to all of these things, right?
Right.
And then ऐसा कुछ नहीं था मेरे time पे to even just consume content from people. Like, it's a great initiative.
Thank you so much. This is what makes me so happy. All right. Thank you for your time. Take care. Bye bye.
Chalo, all the very best. Bye bye.